way back in March, I managed to get up to my syndicate where the weather was kind of all over the place this winter. It was up and down, and it couldn't really make its mind up as to what it wanted to do. So it was all over the place, and not very good conditions for carp fishing, to be fair. But yeah, this particular point in March, the weather turned out to be half decent, low pressure drops and some overcast sort of rain, drizzly weather, typical carp weather, and turned out to be quite a half decent session. Okay, so one of the things I like to do, especially like once the rods are out, if I'm fishing somewhere, for instance today I'm fishing on my syndicate, and it's not it's far from a runs water, so I'm not expecting action every sort of like 10 minutes sort of thing, or every 40 minutes sort of, you know, or every hour. So one of the things I like to do is I like to prepare my hooks. Now, although my hooks are really sharp straight out of the packet, I like to have kind of like a few on standby, if you like. So I'll sharpen a whole packet, and I'll just have those as kind of like my kind of mega sharp hooks, my one bite hooks, if you like, for places specifically like here. Or if I'm fishing somewhere else that's particularly difficult, or I don't get a bite straight away, I'm waiting for those, you know, one bite a day kind of thing, maybe, perhaps, or one bite every 48 hours if you're lucky. So what I tend to do is, like I say, I get a packet of hooks, and I'll just take my time and sharpen them as I go along. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to try and, if I can, show you how to sharpen hooks. I get asked quite a lot, and I know there's loads of videos out there and this, that and the other, but I'll just show you the way I do it, and hopefully you can get something from it. Okay, so for my sharpening, basically I use the Jag file system. Really good clamp, and normally comes with one file, and also you do get two files inside, which are two different grades, a red and a green. A lot of people don't actually realise that they're inside, but they are. All we're going to do literally is take the main file. Obviously we're going to sharpen a size 6 hook here, and all we do is place the hook into the clamp. And what you want to do is you want to place the hook into the clamp so it's kind of like 45 degrees. And then what I like to do is, keeping my thumb underneath the shank, place my file on top of the point. And what you want to do is, or what you don't want to do is, you don't want to go over the point. And what I mean by that is you don't want to go literally over the point at a 45 degree angle. You want to keep the same angle as the actual point itself. And if you look at it really carefully, you've got a tiny little bend just on the point of the hook. You want to kind of take that off, if you like. So you always go toward the hook or toward the point, but never over it. Okay? So you want to start by, like I say, placing your file around about a 20 degree angle. You don't want to go over the point, you just want to go toward the point. And don't be afraid to take off a fair bit of metal. You'll feel the file actually biting into the hook a little bit. But like I say, you don't want to don't go too crazy. What you see a lot of people do as well is that they file the hook. This is barbless. I've crushed the barb down on this, but the barb is normally round about there. You see people starting about here. What you don't want to do is you do not want to take any metal off this side of the barb. All that does is just weakens the hook, and you get lots of people say, or you get it on social media, oh, my hook snapped, sharpen my hook and hook snapped. All right, and there's only one reason for that, and that is because a lot of the time they've sharpened them below the barb. So you don't want to sharpen below the barb. Above the barb you want to sharpen that bit of metal that's there. Like I say, don't be afraid to take a bit of metal off. You can hear it actually eating into the metal. If you feel like the hook's moving a little bit, place it back into the file a little bit tighter. Place your thumb under the shank and just continue to take a little bit of metal off the point there, just at the back. So you can have a look and you can see you've taken a bit off, and what I like to do is just like to pick it a little bit with my finger. You can hear that noise. When you hear that noise, that's sharp enough. That is sharp enough. So you don't want to take any more off of that. And then what I'll do is I'll take a little bit more off this side, but a tiny bit, so you can just about see it change colour where you're taking the coating off. And the same on the other side, almost like an arrow point, and then just round those together, so you've almost got a nice round sharp point on that hook. Again, if you just feel it and hear for it, you can hear that it's really sharp. And it's not too sharp, but it's just sharp enough. And from there, what you can do is you can get the other files out of there, which I'll do quickly. And all you're going to do with these files, these are two different grades. Again, they're very soft. They don't take a lot of metal off. You have to look under a microscope to see it coming off. But all I do with these is literally just smooth off what I've already done. So I'll go over it, over the same part of the hook that I've already sharpened, and I'm literally just going over. All I'm doing is I'm just smoothing that metal off, so it's nice and smooth. Not really sharpening it much. Well, I am, but it's more really just smoothing that metal off, so there's no rough edges and it's nice and smooth. Now you can see the hook point on there is really sharp, razor sharp. And I'll just go through the whole packet like that. So I've got one packet like it, and as I start to get a bit low, perhaps on my next session, depending on how many fish I have or how busy I am with my fishing, I'll sharpen another packet. But that's the crux of it. So the first evening was quite uneventful, but I woke up the next morning to a blinding take, and not long after had a lovely fish in the net. And they're definitely waking up now, so well, they should be. I don't think there's been anything out for a while. This is the first fish, I think, but I'm really pleased with this. Just over £20, believe it or not. Looks, anyway, really pleased with this one. Got some lovely colours on him, and I'll just spin it around and show you the other side, eh? Actually quite a few leeches on him where he's been sitting up, you can see that. And if you do find these on the fish when you have them sort of early spring, try and remove them if you can, because all they do is they suck the life out of the fish, take them off. Sometimes when you see them showing and flashing and stuff, they've got these attached to them and they irritate them. They irritate the fish, so best to try and remove them if you can. But yeah, absolute perler. Let's say just over £20. Beautiful fish, lovely colours on him, some nice scale patterns there, and we'll slip him back and hopefully have a few more. Go, mate. So I'm going to let you into a little secret of mine. It's something I've used for many years. It's a very basic substance, to be fair. It's completely natural, and luckily for me, I can get it in abundance. Now, the big thing is we don't really like to use it just for fishing, because obviously it's kind of like the golden nectar, isn't it? It's worth a few quid, but it's only a small sort of like holding that we've got, and you've probably guessed by now that we keep bees. So my missus looks after bees. We've got bees, and basically we get obviously the honey from the bees. Now, honey is probably one of the best sweeteners that you could use in fishing, in your angling. Whether you want to use it for glugs, or whether you want to use it for put it on pellets or in your ground baits, or whatever you want to use, it is one of the best sweeteners in it that you can use, because it's really difficult to overdo it. Now, if you've got other sweeteners and stuff like Thalmintin B, any other kind of like sugar-based substances, a lot of the times they're manufactured, and you can, if you're not careful, you can make big mistakes with them. But with honey, it's completely different. It's a completely natural, nature's larder, basically, that carp absolutely adore. So what happens is, once we've taken the honey from the hives, and it goes through a process where it comes out of the hives into a drum, open the drum basically at the bottom, that goes through a filter and into a bucket. Now, the stuff that goes through the bucket, everything's clean anyway. You could eat it straight away. You can use it straight away. It's what you'd call raw honey. But when we put it through a filter process, it goes through a filter, and anything that's left on the top is just the slightly larger sugar crystals, particles that won't go through the filter. That's all it is, but it's still perfectly fine. What I do is, before it goes into a warming process, which is another process it goes through to stop the honey from solidifying, basically, in layman's terms, I take the raw honey, the stuff that won't go through the filter, and I accumulate it. And after a while, you end up with like a big bucket of it. So what I've got here is pure honey, raw honey in its raw form rather, and I've put it into a piping bag, tied a knot into a piping bag, snip the end, and now all I do literally is just squeeze that out, and I just squeeze it out over my pellets, mix it into my pellets or my boilies or whatever I want to use. I can even add my smart liquid to it still, so it's not like I'm not using the smart liquid suddenly. I use my other liquids as well, but I'll add this at the same time. Sometimes I use this just on its own, sometimes I use a smart liquid, depends really what I want to do or how I'm feeling, but it's a really good tactic, especially for spring. I found it really, really effective for spring fishing, when the fish are just getting on the feed. It's almost like they're just getting their kind of taste buds back again. They've been set up all winter, and they're just getting into that mood where they're starting to have a bit of a feed, and I find it really, really effective then. So it's a really good tip. Get some honey, or look for some cheaper honey. It's quite affordable in the supermarkets. If you buy it in bulk, I think it works out a bit cheaper, but it's a really, really good additive, and one that people talk about it, but you never really see many people use it. So it's worth having a go. But yeah, definitely give it a go. So what I do, literally get my piping bag, get the honey to the top, piping bag, and it literally just squirt it all over my pellets, like that. That's it. Let that settle. Sit that bag up so it's not spilling everywhere, and all I do is get a bit of warm water out of my kettle, just a little drop over the pellets. I don't want to make the pellets all mushy, I want to keep them solid, and then literally just mix that in. All the pellets. With the baiting spoon. Like that. Now those pellets are completely covered in the honey, which makes them kind of like really sweet, as well as obviously savoury. But fish, carp, absolutely love it. Well, I think spring has definitely sprung, judging by the amount of bugs I've got on the top of my bivvy. Oh, before I knew it, the night was in and I was having my dinner, Done myself a nice chicken stir fry, one of my favourites. So easy to cook. The next morning I woke up, middle rod was away. It wasn't too long before I had a fish in the net. So I thought I'd leave him in the sling for a little while, just let it recuperate, just let it rest while I stuck the kettle on, woke myself up, and then had a good look at the prize and done a few photos. So early hours of the morning, I was rudely but politely woken up by this absolute beast of a carp, just over £30, and it's an absolute peach, and one that I'm really pleased to catch. I'm just going to quickly show him to you. How about that? Absolutely made up with that. £30, 10 ounces. So up in weight, obviously. Starting to feed now, get their heads down, and I'll take that all day long. Absolutely beautiful creature. Look at the scaling pattern on that, just amazing. Quickly show you his other side. He's got a few scales missing on the other side, so he's obviously been in a few battles, and those scales will heal up, no doubt. And he's itching to get back. I'll quickly show you his other side, and then I'll sling him back. Or slip him back, should I say. Lovely old monster. Thank you very much, mate. Session I had was around about May time. I had 48 hours ahead of me and work had been a bit quiet, so I managed to get up there, and the first fish I had was a nice sort of scaly kind of partial linear. Woke me up early hours in the morning. So 5:30 in the morning, just had this lovely 26.5 scattered linear. Lovely fish. And just put up a right old fight, put up a right old scrap this one, and really pleased to have him. I had a small one last night in the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I lost a nice fish yesterday late afternoon, so I'm pretty gutted about that, but it's what it is. One of them things. I'm sure I'll have them somewhere along the line. Anyway, picked up a banoffee wafter straight out of the tub. Just been feeding chops and pellet, and there's no particle this time of year. Starts to get like a bit of a ban on particle through the year. More boily, and try and get the weights up of these fish. So yeah, really pleased. Slitting back, rods are back out. Hopefully we'll have some more. Thank you, mate. There you go, mate. That's all right, mate. When you're releasing fish like this as well, especially if they've been for a bit of a fight, always give them a little bit of time. Never just slip them back. Let them get their breath, take some oxygen in their gills, and just always wait until they're ready. They'll normally tell you if you can normally feel their tail ready to kick. There you go. So I thought I'd just quickly talk you through the rig that you've seen me use a lot, and there's a separate video for it on my channel, basically showing you how to tie it, and and basically this is exactly it. I've put a little bead onto the actual hair material that I've used as a hair material, and then threaded the bead on up the hook like you would normally do for a hook stop. But in this case, I'm using it instead of tubing. I find it doesn't move. It sits underneath the hair perfectly, and when it gets blown out, it gets blown out, it gets blown back. So there's plenty of room there for the bait to move. And it's really nice, as in how it fits on the hook shank. It's not too tight. It's not too tight. It's not too loose, and it sits there in casting, and it's perfect. So that's the only alteration I've made. Obviously we've got a rotator swivel there, and which gives you the 360 degrees play in the hooking and in the presentation. So if you get it slightly wrong, it'll always present in a rig. This type of 360 setup is very popular because it doesn't matter how bad you are as a caster, perhaps, it normally always presents itself. Anyway, what I wanted to get onto quickly was, but this is my take on the rotary rig, and I've attached a hair. I've had quite a few comments, people saying or asking me, you know, does it tangle? What's the point? You get a few questions, so I thought I'd just quickly point out why I've done it. Now, basically, if this was on a swivel and the swivel was attached to the shank, it would be a lot closer, probably round about there, and you only get the amount of play you get between the bait and the shank is what blows back on the shank. So if that bead wasn't there and that bait was attached to the shank, you get that amount of bait blowing back. You don't really get a lot of play in the bait and in the hook. So you've not really got, although the hook is exposed, there's not really loads and loads of it. Anyway, it's a tiny little adjustment I've made with the hair. Because I've added the hair, I've now gone back to basics, really. You know, the hair rig does never fail. You can use it wherever you use it and it will always catch you fish. It just never fails. So what I did was, I've used the hair on there just to give you a bit more play in that hooking potential. It's just a tiny bit. Like I say, the smallest things make the biggest differences, and that tiny bit of difference there, just a little bit more play in that, has allowed my hook holds to be much better. Not only much better, but also they tend to get hooked into in the same place. So they're always around the bottom of the mouth, very rarely in the top lip, which is what can happen a lot on spinners and rotary rigs. But with a hair, I tend to find that it always tends to drop into the bottom lip and hook them perfectly. So that's the reason why I've got a bit of play in there. The reason why I've added this little bead is not really because of tangles, but I just wanted that hook bait to sit opposite the barb where the hair exits. I wanted to sit like that because it actually fishes like this as a wafter. It sits like that, so the hook is just on the point of the hook is just kind of on the deck, if you like, and the hook bait just sits above it. So I wanted to fish it like that, and like I say, that just gives a bit of resistance as to when they blow that out, it pricks the bottom lip, and that obviously gets blown back, and the bait has got lots of freedom, and the hook has got lots of freedom for it to do its job. So that's the main reason why I tied the hair on there. I just thought I'd give you a little explanation as to exactly why I do it, and yeah, go catch some fish. Lovely common, nice shape. Going to be a big girl, I think, in a few years to come. So yeah, another one. Put up another battle. They fight so hard, it's unbelievable. But really made up. Another one on the mainline hook baits. But anyway, spin around, show you the other side quickly. Plenty of water, don't forget, the time of year. Not far off from spawning. Luckily so far, these have not started. I'm sure it won't be long, but lovely fish. Really pleased with that. Like I say, they're slowly getting bigger. Hopefully, the next one will be a monster. Who knows? Always rinse my cup out, make sure I've got no critters crawled in there overnight. There's nothing worse than waking up and finding a slug in your cup. What a beautiful morning. It's going to be a lovely day today. 20 odd degrees, the water's getting really warm. I've heard that the fish were thinking of spawning or seeing signs of spawning, and we need to shut the lake if that's going to happen. But So far I've not seen any signs of spawning, but the water's really warm. It's like a bath, that water, so it probably won't be long if it stays like this, especially the night temperatures. Venues up and down the country, it's happening already, but I think with the weather it seems to be on and off, and depends on the size of venue and depth of water. Depends, but yeah, no signs here yet, just feeding carp. Well, I said they're getting bigger, and just had this one at 33.10. That for banger, wallop, whatever you want to say. Absolute peach of a fish. That's all I know. What a beautiful fish, eh? Look at that. Spin him around, show his other beautiful side. Look at that. Absolute peach. Made up with this one. Not about the size, just absolutely beautiful. Nice to have them obviously when they get big, but beautiful fish. Gorgeous fish to look at. Amazing. Thank you. Well, I'm just about to pack up, just about to reel the rods in, and the right rod went off with a nice chunky mirror. I'm not quite sure how big it is. It's definitely an upper 20, if not 30 pound, if not over. It's a big chunk. So, I was literally just about to pack up, and I thought I'd put a bit more bait over one of my rods, and the right hand rod went off with this absolutely epic 30 pound. Just over 30 pound, 30 pound 5 ounces. So absolutely buzzing with that. I'll quickly show you the other side because it's just as epic. Spin around. Look at that. Absolutely made up with that. Taken on a little rig I've been showing you, it's in my videos, little mainline wafter and a bit of bait over the top, and happy days. I'm gonna slip it back. So, an uneventful night last night. I had a few bleeps on the middle rod, but nothing actually came of it. I had a coot this morning, well, I had a pick me up this morning, moved me up bait, so I had to recast that, which I hate doing, especially like at those sort of early hours of the morning. It's the worst time to recast, but so I put that out again. I've got a couple of hours left, the gear's all on the barra, I'm ready to go, go work unfortunately. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and don't forget, keep those lines tight.